What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Carrasco Ranch. My name is Robert, if this is your first time tuning in. So what we're going to talk about today is the importance of your tires. So this past week I ended up buying about 12 brand new tires for trailers, my truck, and some lawnmowers. So the reason I'm talking about this is because I had a blowout on the truck here at the ranch, and then I had some blowouts on some trailer tires. So I was like, man, you know what? This is a good video for people in general, people who live in South Texas. I'm going to show you guys some of the hazards we have here in South Texas for tires. Yeah, I thought it was a good video. I was like, man, this is a good video because who wants to be wasting their time, you know, fixing flats or changing out tires and putting on spares? I mean, that's not fun. It interrupts people's day. It interrupted my day. I wasn't able to finish the 1 mile hiking trail last week because of that reason. Took 2 days out of my schedule messing with that, piddling around with that stuff. So yeah, that's the reason I brought this video up. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys my personal experiences with 4 different tires. They are pretty much all-terrain hybrid tires. There's one that's possibly like a mud tire, and I'll name them, and then I'll also drop in some pictures so you guys can get a visual of what kind of tires I am talking about. Again, I am here in South Texas, so what I'm talking to is very relevant for people who live in South Texas, or if you're just interested in what kind of tires we should or have here in Texas for the terrain we have here. Stay tuned, it should be a good video. Like I said, I'll show you guys some hazards. I have them in the back of the truck that I've kind of taken down. And again, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This lets YouTube know, hey, this video is helpful for anybody else who is looking for tires, who may live in a region that has similar hazards as we do here in Texas. Oh yeah, guys, almost forgot. I will leave the links for all the tires I was mentioning in the video for anyone who is interested in looking at or checking out the specs on those tires. There's going to be links to Amazon. It's actually sometimes more likely cheaper if you purchase them online and you just go to a tire shop and just pay for the installation of the tires. It usually comes out cheaper that way. But yeah, guys, without further ado, that was it. Alright, guys, so real quickly before I show you guys the hazards of Texas, particularly South Texas, I'm going to tell you guys the 4 tires I have had experience with and driven on my trucks with. The 4 tires that I would, I guess, somewhat recommend, and I'll basically name which one is my preference over all 4 of them. So the first one is the Nitto Ridge Grapplers. I've had experience with those. The Toyo Open Country RTs, and I'll put photos for all these as well on the screen. Goodyear Wrangler Duratracs, and lastly, the most recent ones I had on were the Discover STT Pros. All right, guys, so we're gonna show you guys some of the hazards we have here in South Texas. Those of y'all who live in South Texas already are familiar with all this wonderful, wonderful stuff. And those of y'all who are not familiar with South Texas, these are some of the things that we have here in South Texas. What does that saying go? I forgot. Someone told me it's like, in Texas, it's either trying to sting you, poke you, or kill you, or something like that. Well, it's kind of true. I don't even know if I said that right, but it is kind of true. So this one, in my opinion, I don't even know what this thing is called, but this is probably the worst one for tires. You can see this thing is, I mean, a whole finger, whole thumb, about a whole finger length long, almost a whole finger length long. This stuff goes through tires like nothing, especially if they are, you know, 6 or 4-ply tires with soft composite rubber. Psh, forget it. You're gonna be stranded for sure if you run over this stuff. Next up is the cactus. So we have different types of cactuses. I have 3 different types here in the ranch, but I just pulled this one off. It has some of the bigger thorns, but you can see that that's, I don't know, about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches of thorn. Again, these aren't as bad as these, but they will still puncture a 4-ply, 6-ply tire. Sometimes even 8s. Those will sometimes pop some 8s on a vehicle. This is not so much of a hazard to your tires, but to yourself. But they are a nuisance because they will start ripping apart your tires because they have a ton of little thorns, and all they do is remove little chunks of material out of your tires over time if you have a lot of that stuff. And this is the mesquite. This is all over South Texas. I have a bunch of this one here, and you can see how big those thorns are. About 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches there too. And look at that stuff. So this stuff is also pretty bad. Usually they'll break off and they'll stay stuck on those tires. And these will flatten your tires for sure. This is the Weisach, I believe it's what it's called. I forgot what it's called in Spanish. But I believe it's called Weisach. And these, the thorns do get pretty long, longer than this. I just couldn't find one close to me, but they do get longer than this. And for anyone who doesn't know, the drier the year, the longer and the more vicious the thorns, because the drier years, the thorns seem to grow more, and they will grow more frequently versus in wetter years. This year was a wetter year, by the way, as well. So those are the hazards we have here in South Texas. Just a few of the hazards, not all of them. Just a few that I just picked up. Alright guys, so just wanted to show you guys who are not familiar with the South Texas, I guess, landscape, scenery, hazards, whatever you want to call it. So this is a little sendero that they cleared out. The electric company cleared this out, but you can use these as roads. But the problem with that is you're gonna have a lot of these sticks, because the dozer are just gonna come in here and chop everything down. But a lot of these sticks are left up. So if you don't have good tires, guess what? These will puncture those tires. So, of course, I have a photo that I'm gonna be putting into the video of what happens when you don't have the proper tires out here in the country. Those are the tires that did come with the truck, so there's that. But yeah, you can see all these sticks and things sticking out of the ground. Just want to give you guys another example of the tire hazards for South Texas. I guess pretty much actually any region, because if the dozer comes in and knocks down those trees, different trees will break a little differently, but you may still have sticks and stumps sticking out of the ground. It's a good one right there, actually. Right, so you can see right here, I got the Nitto Ridge Grapplers. That's what I'm running on this, the diesel truck. It's a 2500 diesel. That's what I'm running on these. So I'll put a picture of the little blowout I had on the original manufacturer tires, which happened last week. I'll put a picture of that as well. The Nittos, I've had these on my Silverado 1500. It's a 2015, and I went back to these again only because they were somewhat on a deal, so that's the reason I went back to these. But I do like these, and I'll get to it here in a little bit. But on my 15, I never had any issues. They did get a little loud once they started to wear out, but they were not as loud as, say, a Toyo RT. The Toyo RTs are a little louder than the Nittos Ridge Grapplers, in my opinion, at least the way I ran them. So yeah, so these never had any punctures, never had any issues. They ride very smooth for being such an aggressive looking tire. Also, I feel like they do wear pretty evenly as well. What else? Mud, great for the mud. No thorns have penetrated those things yet, or at least have made any difference as far as air pressure. The wet traction on these is pretty good, and the stopping distance is pretty good, I would say, as well. For most, out of all the hybrids, I feel like these have been the best as far as for wet traction that I've had on my vehicles. Yeah, I mean, I run over stumps, I run over cactus, I run over mesquite, I run over everything. With these, no issues. Like I said, these I just got, but I did have them on my 15 Silverado, and never had any issues with those. The next tire I'll talk about is a Toyo Open Country RTs. Those are a little tougher tire than the Nittos as far as on the sidewalls. I believe those are 3-ply sidewalls, and I believe these are 2. I believe so. Drop it down if I'm wrong. But those were definitely a thicker, more harder composite rubber than the Nittos. And you could tell they rode a little rougher, they were a little louder. But again, with those, you could run over everything and no issues, never had a flat. Like I said, the only issue I had with them was that they did get a little loud compared to these, and they were a little heavier, so they did wear down my gas mileage some compared to these as well, like I said. What else? Wet traction, they were not that great, only because I had already compared it to these, like I said. So other than that, they were solid tires. If you're going to be doing more off-roading or just pretty much a ranch vehicle, then they're probably perfect. They're a little tougher. In my opinion, I think they're a little tougher for the abuse. Next tires I had were on my 2021 Silverado. Those I had the Wrangler Duratracs, and then I converted those over to the Cooper Discover STT Pros. I like the STT Pros. They look really sharp, and I had the white lettering, so they come with either the black lettering or the white lettering. I had the white lettering on the outside, and really liked them. They were a sharp looking tire. They were very aggressive. As far as wet traction control, I would again say they're not as good as the Nittos either. Stopping distance, they're okay, but again, not as good as the Nittos. Mud traction, perfect. If you're going to be mudding, those things are great in the mud. In my opinion, I think those, the Cooper Discovers, STT Pros, are better than these for the mud. For caliche, again, that's probably another hazard I didn't mention here in South Texas. Caliche and gravel roads, those were a little bit better. The composite rubber was a little tougher than the Nittos. These do tend to start to chip off if you're driving on some really rough rocks. They'll chip off over time. The Cooper Discover STT Pros, they showed some minimal wear. Again, it's some rough terrain, but not as bad as the Nittos. And I'm only comparing everything to the Nittos because that's what I have on right now. That's what I can visually point to and show you. So I should have saved at least one tire of every vehicle that I've had, but I didn't. But again, yeah, those were great for mud, great for the caliche roads. They were a little harder composite. They were very loud, in my opinion, compared to the Nittos. And they're about the same, maybe a little louder than the Toyo Open Country RTs as far as the loudness on the road. Those you can kind of hear them right away. They're a little louder. As they start to wear, they get really loud. But on sand, I've tried those things in sand. They were good in sand as well. Stumps, rocks, cactus, mesquite, anything you wanted to run those things over, they were fine. No issues. Never had a flat. Only complaint was that they were a little loud, but they look sharp. I mean, if you're going to be using it mainly for off-road, or if you just want to have a sharp looking truck, those are really nice looking tires. One of my favorite tires, honestly, but they're just heavier for one, so they did take down the MPGs, and they are a little louder. Other than that, great tire. The next one I'm going to talk about is the Wrangler Duratracs. Duratracs come standard on the Trail Bosses, which is what I had on my 21 and on my 19 Trail Boss. I had the Duratracs. They are also a good looking tire. Not as good as the Coopers, but they're a good looking tire. They are a softer composite rubber than your Nittos, Toyos, and the Coopers. They are softer, so they do wear, in my opinion, a little easier, especially for hot asphalt. I saw that they were wearing a little faster. Going down back roads, caliche roads, they wore out very fast. I went through 2 sets of those, I believe. 2 sets of those, and they wear out really fast. I drive a lot for one, and they wear out freaking quick. They were great for mud, though. They took me out of the mud many times. I did get a flat on those one time, but other than that, I think that was the only flat I did have. Very somewhat quiet tire until they start to wear. Once they begin to wear, they get a little loud as well. I actually had those during the snowstorm here in 2001, recently actually, and they performed great in snow. Of course, had to do a little off-roading in the snow. When do I get the chance to do that here in Texas? So if you're listening up north, they performed excellent in the snow. We ended up getting about 8-9 inches of snow where I was at, and no problems. Had it in 4-wheel drive the entire time. Ran them, no issues. Great tire for snow. But for the country out here with the mesquite and sticks and thorns, I wouldn't recommend them. They are a good looking tire, but they aren't as durable as some of these other tires that I mentioned. They are a little heavier than these as well, believe it or not. So they do take down the MPGs somewhat. What else? Wet traction on those was actually excellent. They have great wet traction. Sand was excellent on those as well. All right, guys, so to kind of wrap it up, we talked about the Toyo Open Country RTs, Nitto Ridge Grapplers, Goodyear Duratracs, and the Cooper Discover STT Pros. So kind of from, if you ask me to rank them in order, how would I rank them in order? Based off of where I live, South Texas, a lot of mesquite, a lot of thorns, a lot of caliche. Which tire do I prefer? For everything that still looks decent, I would go with the Ridge Grapplers. And you guys can see, I can get 35s on these, but I'm not gonna, I really don't want to wear down my MPGs. That's the reason I went with just the standard 275/70 R18. The reason I chose these again also is, one, they were on sale. Two is I've had great experience with these. These are great. I mean, they perform very well in the mud. They perform well on caliche roads, back roads. They resist punctures from everything we have here in Texas. They're a sharp looking tire. They ride really smooth. And for the aggressiveness of the tire, they are very quiet in comparison to all of the others. So if I was to rank them, the Nitto Ridge Grapplers would be my #1 choice. My second choice would probably be the Toyo Open Country RTs. And the only reason I'm not choosing those as #1 is because they're a little heavier, because they do have thicker sidewalls, and they are a little louder. That's pretty much the only two reasons I'm choosing the Nittos over the Toyos. Third place would go to the Cooper Discover STT Pros. Those are great looking tires, sharp looking tire, but they're even louder in my opinion, or if not as loud as the RTs from Toyo. Last pick would be the Goodyear Wrangler Duratracs, and that's because they just aren't up for this type of climate, this type of terrain we have here in South Texas. They do puncture a little easier than these other ones. They do wear a little faster on some back roads, caliche roads with big rocks and stuff like that. You will wear those out a little faster than you would something like this. So that would be my order: Nitto, Toyo, Cooper, and Goodyear. That's how I would rank these tires for the South Texas scenery or terrain. Alrighty guys, so that's gonna wrap up the video. I just want to kind of just show you guys what we had here in South Texas, the reason I drive these tires, and the importance of these tires, because hunting season's coming up. Who wants to be fixing flats while you're trying to get your buck or your doe or whatever you're hunting for, right? Who wants to be fixing freaking flats? I know I don't. So I had one flat and I was like, you know what, I'm not even gonna screw with it, just go get my tires and be done with it. Don't have to worry about it. So yeah guys, if you know anyone who is looking for tires, who lives in South Texas, show them this video. Again, this is my personal driving every day back and forth through the property and other places, and that's been my experience with those types of tires. But yeah guys, we'll leave it right there. And without further ado guys, be careful, be good, take care, and God bless. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on this video.